Welcome to Defense Briefing. The content of the briefing includes: Musk pits Scandinavia's embrace of EVs against its beloved unions. Armenia under the gun. Access to affordable food needs government intervention, report finds. South Korea's Hanwha signs $2.4 billion defense contract with Australia. We didn't know if they'd shoot us, when Brett Sutton faced the Taliban. Musk pits Scandinavia's embrace of EVs against its beloved unions. Bloomberg. Armenia under the gun. Foreign affairs. The recent conflict in Nagorno-Karabakh between Armenia and Azerbaijan highlighted the deep-rooted tensions and unresolved disputes between the two countries. Despite a ceasefire agreement brokered by Russia, the situation remains unstable, with the potential for another war looming. Azerbaijan's military superiority and its desire to secure a corridor to its exclave of Nakhichevan pose a significant threat to Armenia. The international community, particularly the United States and its Western allies, must pressure both sides to return to the negotiating table and urgently resume peace talks. The focus should be on settling long-standing disputes over borders and the corridor rather than specific issues related to Nagorno-Karabakh. The fall of Nagorno-Karabakh did not resolve all the issues between Armenia and Azerbaijan. Both countries have 3 generations of people who view the other side as the enemy, and their shared borders are lined with military positions. Azerbaijan's military is far more powerful than Armenia's, and it could quickly take control of significant portions of Armenian territory. An aggressive Azerbaijani military action to establish a corridor to its exclave could lead to the partition of Armenia and the displacement of hundreds of thousands of people. With external powers preoccupied with other conflicts, Armenia cannot rely on external support. The best way to prevent another war is for the international community to pressure Armenia and Azerbaijan to return to the negotiating table and address the underlying disputes. The West has attempted to put pressure on Azerbaijan by signaling that its reluctance to engage in talks may cost it bilateral trade deals and other planned projects. However, Azerbaijan may still prefer the battlefield over negotiations. The recent conflict and the forced displacement of the entire Armenian population from Nagorno-Karabakh are tragic, but without a diplomatic solution, the risk of a new war and the partition of Armenia remains high. The United States and the EU are the only powers capable of pushing negotiations forward and should continue their efforts to bring Azerbaijan back to the table. Access to affordable food needs government intervention, report finds. ABC. The Australian Parliament's Agriculture Committee has released the findings of a year-long inquiry into food security in the country. The committee made 35 recommendations, including the appointment of a Minister for Food and the establishment of a Food Council. The report also highlighted the need for a food plan for Australia, similar to those in place in other countries such as Scotland, the United Kingdom, and Canada. The report noted that while Australia is considered one of the most food-secure nations in the world, there is room for improvement in areas such as inputs and waste reduction. South Korea's Hanwha signs $2.4 billion defense contract with Australia. Nikkei Asia. South Korea's Hanwha Aerospace has signed a contract with Australia to supply 129 Redback infantry fighting vehicles by 2028 in a deal worth $2.4 billion. This follows Australia selecting Hanwha as a preferred bidder for the project in July, which is the single largest investment in Army capability to date for the country. The vehicles will be manufactured in Geelong, Australia, and are expected to support approximately 2,100 jobs. The first vehicles will be delivered in 2027. We didn't know if they'd shoot us, when Brett Sutton faced the Taliban. The Sydney Morning Herald. Brett Sutton, the former Chief Health Officer, CHO, of Victoria, Australia, reflects on his experiences during the COVID-19 pandemic in an interview. Sutton recounts a moment during his youth when he was left alone in the jungle during a trip to Guatemala, which he likens to the uncertain and challenging nature of the pandemic response. Sutton was known for his calm but blunt advice during the crisis, and he recalls the weight of the decisions made in the pandemic war room. Despite the vitriol and death threats he faced during his tenure, Sutton remains dedicated to healthcare, now working as head of health and biosecurity at the CSIRO. Sutton's experiences as a doctor have often brought him into dangerous situations, from negotiating with the Taliban in Afghanistan to treating patients in conflict zones. He is driven by a desire to alleviate suffering and has been deeply affected by the poverty and hardships he has witnessed throughout his life. Sutton's journey to becoming a doctor was unconventional, as he did not follow the typical private school route that many of his peers did. He was raised by a widow in Croydon and developed a love for animals and mathematics, but ultimately chose medicine for its high stakes and the opportunity to help others. Now at the CSIRO, Sutton oversees various health and biosecurity initiatives, including monitoring tropical diseases and addressing the impacts of climate change. He believes that threats are often underestimated and that collaboration between states is crucial for effective disease control. Despite the challenges he faced as CHO, Sutton remains dedicated to his work and enjoys the shorter hours he now has. He plans to spend more time with his family and continue his work at the CSIRO. Journalists' rights group counts 94 media workers killed worldwide, most at an alarming rate in Gaza. Associated Press. The International Federation of Journalists, IFJ, has expressed deep concern over the number of journalists killed globally in 2023, with Israel's war with Hamas being the deadliest conflict for journalists in over 30 years. The IFJ reported that 94 journalists have been killed this year and almost 400 others have been imprisoned. The group called for better protection for media workers and for their attackers to be held accountable. The IFJ also highlighted the dangers faced by journalists in Ukraine, Afghanistan, the Philippines, India, China, and Bangladesh. It noted a drop in the number of journalists killed in North and South America, but expressed concern over crimes against media workers going unpunished. Africa remained the least affected region, but the IFJ highlighted 3 murders in Cameroon and Lesotho that have yet to be fully investigated. Q&A, I need to be vindicated, Leila de Lima on Duterte and the drug war. Al Jazeera. Former Philippine Senator Leila de Lima has spoken to Al Jazeera about her release last month after a long period of detention. In 2016, former President Rodrigo Duterte pledged to destroy de Lima, a prominent critic of the government's drug war. De Lima was arrested on drug charges in 2017, which she denies were politically motivated. In the interview, she said Duterte's allegations about her private life were foul and despicable. She also discussed the importance of the international community's support during her detention and the challenges faced by women in Philippine politics. De Lima also spoke about the current administration of Ferdinand Marcos Jr., the son of the former dictator Ferdinand Marcos Sr., saying there is now less repression and harassment of critics. However, she suggested that the government needed to do more to ensure judicial independence and to dismantle the National Task Force to end local communist armed conflict. Open House, Hong Kong's property downturn may yet save century-old townhouse. Bloomberg. A real estate slump in Hong Kong is helping to preserve a 1920s townhouse in the mid-levels district that is up for sale for the first time in decades. The property market in Hong Kong is depressed, with government revenue from land sales set for a record low this year as developers hold off adding to their land bank. Sales of homes are also on track to be the lowest ever, and home prices have plunged more than 20% from their 2021 high. Typically, a low-rise property like the townhouse in question would be demolished for redevelopment rights, but demand has collapsed and mortgage rates have surged, making redevelopment less appealing. The townhouse is on the market for 141 million Hong Kong dollars, $18 million. Potential buyers include a family office looking to convert the building into a boutique hotel, as well as a real estate developer. The property is a Grade 2 listed building, meaning it is of special merit and should be selectively preserved, but redevelopment is still possible. Ospreys had safety issues long before they were grounded. A look at the aircraft's history. Associated Press. The entire U.S. military fleet of V-22 Ospreys has been grounded after a deadly crash off the coast of Japan. The crash, which killed all 8 Air Force Special Operations Command service members on board, was the most recent in a long line of problems that have plagued the Osprey since it became operational in 2007. Persistent questions have been raised about a mechanical problem with the clutch that has troubled the program for over a decade. Since 2010, Osprey clutches have slipped at least 15 times, and hard clutch engagement, HCE, events have created a power spike that has thrown the Osprey into an uncontrolled roll or slide. These HCE events have caused the destruction of a sprag clutch, which has resulted in a complete loss of aircraft control. The Osprey takes off and lands like a helicopter, but can tilt its propellers horizontally to fly like an airplane. The unique and complex design of the aircraft has allowed it to speed troops to the battlefield. The U.S. Marine Corps, which operates the majority of the Ospreys in service, calls it a game-changing assault support platform. The U.S. Navy has been in the process of adopting the Osprey to replace its C-2 Greyhound propeller planes. Marine Corps Ospreys have also been used to transport White House staff, press, and security personnel accompanying the president. Son of Israeli war cabinet member killed in action in Gaza. New York Times. Master Sergeant Gal Meir Eisenkot, the son of former Israeli Army Chief of Staff Lieutenant General Gadi Eisenkot, was among the soldiers killed in fighting in the Gaza Strip on Thursday. The younger Eisenkot, 25, was a reserve soldier in a commando unit. His death comes as fighting between Israel and Hamas entered its second month, with nearly 100 Israeli soldiers killed in the conflict. Gadi Eisenkot is now a government minister and a non-voting member of the emergency war cabinet that is directing the fighting. That's all for today's news roundup from the 6 Degrees World. I'm Dr. Six, your resident observer, here to bring you the latest updates from around the globe. In Sweden, a small walkout at Tesla's repair shops has sparked a storm of labor strikes and blockades, pitting the country's embrace of electric vehicles against its beloved unions. Meanwhile, tensions between Armenia and Azerbaijan remain unresolved, with the potential for another war looming. The Australian Parliament's Agriculture Committee has released a report highlighting the need for government intervention in ensuring access to affordable food. South Korea's Hanwha has signed a defense contract with Australia worth $2.4 billion, marking the country's largest investment in army capability to date. Former Chief Health Officer of Victoria, Brett Sutton, reflects on his experiences during the pandemic and his dedication to healthcare. The International Federation of Journalists expresses concern over the number of journalists killed globally, with Israel's conflict with Hamas being the deadliest for journalists in over 30 years. Former Philippine Senator Leila de Lima speaks out about her release from detention and the challenges faced by women in Philippine politics. A real estate slump in Hong Kong is helping to preserve a century-old townhouse, while the entire U.S. military fleet of V-22 Ospreys has been grounded after a deadly crash. Lastly, the son of a former Israeli Army Chief of Staff is among the soldiers killed in the fighting in Gaza. Now, let's dive into some analysis. Scandinavia's love for electric vehicles is being tested by labor strikes and blockades, highlighting the challenges of transitioning to a greener future. While unions play a crucial role in protecting workers' rights, finding a balance between labor rights and environmental goals is essential. In the case of Armenia and Azerbaijan, the recent conflict in Nagorno-Karabakh is a stark reminder of the deep-rooted tensions in the region. The international community must pressure both sides to return to the negotiating table to address the underlying disputes and prevent further escalation. In Australia, the report on food security highlights the need for government intervention to ensure access to affordable food. The government's appointment of a Minister for Food and the establishment of a Food Council could help address this issue. South Korea's defense contract with Australia is a significant investment in army capability and shows the growing collaboration between the two countries. The experiences of Brett Sutton, former CHO of Victoria, remind us of the sacrifices and challenges faced by healthcare professionals during the pandemic. His dedication to healthcare and his work at the CSIRO continue to make a positive impact. The International Federation of Journalists' concern over the safety of journalists is a reminder of the importance of press freedom and the need for better protection for media workers. In the Philippines, the release of Leila de Lima sheds light on the challenges faced by critics of the government and the importance of international support. The real estate slump in Hong Kong presents an opportunity to preserve historical buildings, while the grounding of the Ospreys highlights the need for thorough investigations and continuous improvement in military equipment. Lastly, our thoughts go out to the families of those affected by the ongoing conflict in Gaza. The death of Master Sergeant Gal Mayer Eisenkot reminds us of the human cost of war. That's all for today's news. Remember, these are just snapshots of the events happening around the world. There's always more to learn, more to understand. So, keep exploring, keep questioning, and keep sharing your thoughts. What are your ideas? Thank you for tuning in. The content above showcases the latest briefing reports and analytical synopses, thoughtfully curated by the 6Do team. These insights stem from a wide array of reputable media outlets, think tanks, government sources, and specialized experts worldwide. We encourage you to explore these sources for a comprehensive perspective. Keep in mind that while the content may not always align with the official standpoint of 6Do Brief, it's not meant to be taken as absolute directives for decision-making. Comprising seasoned media professionals, learned scholars, and accomplished scientists, the 6Do team embodies a trailblazing, fully independent media entity. To customize 6Do Brief to meet your professional needs, you have the option to subscribe to a diverse array of briefings on our website, 6dobrief.com. Regardless of your location, you can conveniently receive 6Do Brief via email.